Welcome, everyone, to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind review, where we sit down and discuss some of our favorite films and franchises of the past. On this episode, we are doing a very special one-off for David Lynch's Dune. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Anthony the Gooch. Ragucci Gooch, how are we today?
I got the recording equipment hooked up with the weird...
The weirding module?
The weird... I can't even say it right. The weirding module, so I'm ready to get weird with David Lynch's Dune.
I love it, Gooch. I'm excited to get weird as well, as we always do on this podcast. But Dune was initially released in December 14th of 1984 to a rating of PG-13 with a runtime of 137 minutes, a production budget of $45 million, which we'll talk about what that is in today's money a little later in fun facts,
okay.
And a worldwide box office of $27.5 million. Opening weekend, $6 million. So this film lost money.
Holy shit.
Did not do well. The screenplay was, of course, written by David Lynch himself, was directed by David Lynch, and the original novel was, of course, written by Mr. Frank Herbert. Did you have a question? I don't know.
No, I was going to comment. It's fun. So, came out in 1984.
Yeah.
Honestly, Empire is out?
Yes. No, Empire isn't out. Maybe it is, actually.
Maybe 87. No way. When was Empire?
That was 80. Okay, yeah, wow, okay.
So when was Return of the Jedi?
I want to say that was
87?
after this, but...
I'm just getting the context.
83. So this is after all of Star Wars.
So the original trilogy of Star Wars has come out and is cemented as one of those pop culture things. And now you have another huge I don't even think you could call it that. A sci-fi
space opera
IP that comes out and clearly is nowhere near or close to Star Wars in terms of quality, like in terms of everything. I think like Dune as an IP kind of like going against Star Wars. Like people probably might have seen it be like, hey, like is this the next Star Wars, Well,
it's funny because this is like Dune inspired all that stuff
right
with the books.
But it clearly is not.
It's a post-Star Wars world, and there's just so much more in the book where I just don't think it's as simple to tell that story.
Right,
but
and we're adapting screenplay
so
here.
There's,
it's a bit different, but it's something to keep in mind that like, hey, like okay, like there's our base. Like Star Wars is out. So what does that mean, right, in a post-Star Wars world?
But for the description here, a duke's son leads desert warriors against a galactic emperor and his father's evil nemesis to free their desert world from the emperor's rule.
Perfect.
Yeah, that works. That was pretty good.
Yep, that's good.
But yeah, Gooch, let's get into it. David Lynch is Dune. This is 40-year-old film, actually. We're in 2024, which is wild. Yeah, man, they're taking a lot of big swings in this. It's a lot to cover when it comes to the book. They're trying to do, for some context, this is the entirety of the first book, whereas the new Dune, the first one, was just the first half. And there's a lot to cover. But let's start out with just the look of the world, Gooch. What did you think of just the overall aesthetic of David Lynch's Dune?
Well, that means we're starting on a bit of a negative note.
No, it's all right.
It's a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think one of my biggest critiques of it, and like we watched it last night together with a little watch party, so that was fun. But I was just like, what is up with the costume design of some of this? Like, why does the Atreides family look like Fidel Castro, Cuban revolutionaries out of the Cold War? I'm like, what is this look? Like it, but then we have the still suits, and they look cool. Like they're futuristic. The Harkonnens look futuristic. They look unreal. So I'm like buying that. That this is like sci-fi.
Sure.
The hairstyles. I mean the female hairstyles are 80s, obviously, but. Like Jessica's hair was like, okay, like that looks unreal, very like
regal,
done up, regal.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, why are certain people just look like they're out of like 1984?
Yeah, it's weird because like one of the things I like about the Dune universe, it's very anachronistic. Like this is 20,000 years in the future, but like in the new one, they're still bullfighting. For some reason, they have like pool tables. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But like in this, it's like the guys are wearing a lot of like almost 16th century like captain's uniforms. Then you're right. Then they switch to 1980s Cuban Cold War like fatigues, and then the women look like they are dressed as like medieval like princesses almost. Like they have these super regal gowns with like big skirts and things like that, and like corsets and all that. It's very weird and out there. I don't like hate it a lot, but it's like super gaudy, and especially when it comes to the Emperor's place, like it's just a big gold palace too, which I thought was interesting. And even
I
his
think
ship.
the interiors are fine.
Sure.
I mean, the ships are another thing.
Sure.
And maybe that's like that's almost a different conversation.
Absolutely, but
because the ships, just like we were saying last night, like the ornithopter,
terrible.
yeah, like they just couldn't do it.
No.
And this movie feels like a lot to me like the original Tron. This movie was made way
before it's time to really shine. Yeah.
Right. They really relied on tech, both CGI and maybe practical, that just didn't exist or couldn't have been done back then. Where Tron, the original Tron, suffers from the same thing. It's like, this is cool, this is interesting for a timepiece of the day, but like it doesn't ultimately like succeed at what it's trying to do. Just and that it really is no fault of its own.
No, I just think you're right. They've taken on so much, and David Lynch is trying to squeeze everything from this first book into this. You can feel it very hardcore, but you know, it's funny because this is the first time it's really being adapted to screen. You're only described these things in the book. I like the idea of trying to take that swing for like what you think this world would look like and how you think people would dress, and you know, what's the military attire and stuff. But I think for the most part, it unfortunately doesn't work when it comes to costume design. But there are some like standouts, like you said, like the still suit, and just yeah. We'll get into the ship stuff. Like it is just some weird kind of boxy designs, which you know I actually don't hate, because a lot of the new ships are like boxy and weird looking in the new one, but it's because they really don't have to like travel through space like they do even in this new the older one.
I was meaning to ask you last night, and I kind of held off just to ask here, besides the shields, what is CGI and what isn't
in this?
Yeah,
so there's no CGI. This is all technically before computer graphics. They actually, like for the shields, you know, you cut out plates and you have to do a single plate for each one. They did a great actually explanation on a Corridor Crew Expert when they go through Dune, and they talk about how they did it. It's all in-camera effects, so there's no digital effects in this whatsoever. But I mean, there's a lot of, you know, things that feel digital, which is
the
wild.
shield,
yeah,
being not the shield that goes around the palace, but the shield that goes around what's it called again? The personal.
It's just the personal shield. Yeah,
like that thing was like, what is this?
It's wild, and
like
that's
I'm
one
like,
thing.
this looks horrible.
But like I feel like for the day, it's, I think, a very interesting and cool attempt. It is just weird because it's these two block men fighting each other,
right? Or like throwing each other at it. Yeah. Like I'm like, what is this?
It is weird. And again, with the fighting and stuff, they changed a lot from the book in this in the way of like things that I guess David Lynch felt was silly. Like everyone in this movie has like guns. Like no one's supposed to be using guns in the Dune universe. They're like useless at this point because everyone has personal shields. Like that's kind of the whole point. And then when it comes to even like the weirding module and things like that, how we were talking, like that doesn't exist in the books at all. And we'll get into apparently why.
Yeah, and I mean the weirding
like
modules look stupid. You know,
and that scene where he's
they,
fighting a robot.
You know, like they scream like. So what is the voice power called?
It's just I can't remember. It's just I think literally called like the voice.
So is the weirding module made to mimic that?
I guess that's what they're kind of trying to like imply. But again, it doesn't exist within the books at all. The weirding, yeah.
But you're saying the weirding in the books is a fight style,
correct? Which is mostly employed by like I guess the Atreides and the Bene Gesserit, but it's a martial arts style. It's not like
Why is it called weirding?
It's just the weird. That's what I think the Freemen call it. I think that's just because that's just the name they came up with.
Because it's
for
weird.
Some reason. It's weird. Yeah. So it's basically a form of martial arts.
I did
they
the word.
Literally made it into like a gun in this, like a sonic gun. Which again, no one's using guns in this.
Right, and like the action, which is almost non-existent because I don't even think the action is really action. It's just like what's a step below like standing there and action like.
Sure, like things are kind of happening behind you.
Like things are happening, but it's not too crazy exciting. Yeah. And I mean, I think that leads into like the worms in Dune, like how unimpressive and unawesome they are. Where in Denis Villeneuve's Dune, it's like holy shit, like the size and scale and ferocity of these creatures is felt in full effect. Like when it eats the crawler in Villeneuve's Dune. Villeneuve's Dune. Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve. It's tough.
Yeah. I can say it. Denis Denis Villeneuve. I can say it together, but without his
It's
first
tough,
name,
yeah.
it throws me off. But yeah, like when the crawler gets eaten in Lynch's Dune, it's like, here we go.
And it's funny
All
because
right,
like
he ate it. See ya. You
Yeah.
know, like it's so like just unepic and uninteresting.
I think it's tough to view from our lens because we're so used to modern filmmaking techniques and how like wild things can get. And I mean, we watched the trailer for the next one after this, and like that scene of them emerging from like the smoke and like they're just barreling towards the battlefield. Like you can't do that in 1984, and it sucks. I think it's a pretty good attempt, and I think that scene you're talking about is a great comparison because it's so almost one for one to each movie. You just definitely feel the intensity more within Denis' version of it, just because you know. I think a lot of technological reasons, in my opinion. I think it's a pretty good attempt for the time at what they're trying to accomplish. And I mean, it's all miniatures and all in-camera effects, like we said. So, again, they're going for the moon here, but it's definitely no 2021 sand swallow.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the tough things here, too, of just like, we start getting into so many things then after that story-wise. Like, so this is the entirety of the first book, like we said. How did you feel afterwards? Did you feel satisfied at all, or do you feel
yeah, actually, I think it gave me a lot more context to what was going on. And I mean, also, you know, we had some people there who were, besides you, who were explaining things, which I think helped. But, you know, I was kind of, my one critique with Dune, I think even on the podcast, I was giving you the example. It's like some of the terminology from the 2021 Dune, it's just like they're kind of saying like Bene Gesserit would actually without actually giving context to what that means or explaining it. So I'm just like, what? Like, what is that? But in Lynch's Dune, they do it a few times, and it's either like right at the beginning where we're getting the exposition of what Arrakis is,
the PowerPoint,
the Landsrad, and like, you know, the houses and like what it all means, and I'm like, okay, cool, like nice base to go into. But in 2021, they don't do any of that. And then there was another example where in Lynch's Dune, they're like, oh, like she said a word and then what it means, like right after. And I'm like, good, because that's all I need to know. There's like what this word you just said meant. And it was like Messiah, whatever the word for Messiah, I think.
Oh, listen, Al-Gaib or whatever. Like
I think one of the Bene Gesserit says it, and then she goes and she says the word and then like comma, what it actually means.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good, great, because that's all I need. But like, and I mean, I guess for immersion purposes, maybe like it's unnecessary in the world, but
it just feels so unnatural to me. Like no one speaks like that. Like that's not, you don't like say something like, because the people
you don't
inside
say a synonym and
then explain it for the people that in the world that you're talking to. I guess like,
right.
My difference on that is I think the new one gives you as much within the context of the scene to know as you need. Like, you know, Paul and Jessica in the movie are mother and daughter, or mother and son. You know, the Bene Gesserit are showing up. Okay, they seem to be this weird organization. They're all called Bene Gesserit. They're testing him. I think they do a great job of giving you the context within a scene of what is going on without needing to be like, and this is what the Galactic Empire is, and this is the Padisha Emperor, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I hear the critique, and I think you could probably do that a little bit better in certain ways, but again, they just do start showing you PowerPoints in this, and then they're like, this is the entire world of Dune. And again, because there is a lot going on.
I don't know if
it's
I go that far. I don't think it's showing you PowerPoints.
I mean, it literally,
in the
joking,
beginning,
like,
sure, maybe.
it gives you the whole Irulan, like, voiceover, and then it kind of gives you, like, it lays out all the planets and stuff. And again, like, I get that they want to kind of establish the lore for people, but I do think you just go too far in certain ways, and I think it does, like, make some people feel like dumb. It's like, I get it. Okay, we get it.
Yeah, and I think for new sci-fi, it helps. Like, again, I used Rebel Moon as an example where they're going into it probably more than Lynch's Dune is in the beginning, but I guess it helps establish a base. But I also have a base of I've seen 2021 Dune, or I've seen Dune Part 1, so I kind of get the jive and I'm putting the pieces together. So now when I do watch 2021 Dune again, it's going to feel much better.
Sure.
Because I get it now.
No, definitely. And I think that is the plus of having people around you during the film that you can ask on the fly questions to, which for sure helps. But again, I think that there is a careful balance that works very well in films where it's like, okay, you need to know what something is within the context of the film, And sorry, I will always bring up Star Wars. Like that starts out, you have no idea what's going on. Luke's on a farm. He starts talking about the Galactic Empire. They don't then give you a whole
but like
rundown
the words Galactic Empire are English words that make sense.
Sure.
Jedi is probably confusing at first,
Yeah.
but like it's the only word they're throwing around, and it's like, and then they, like when Ben Kenobi comes out, like he kind of explains
he's
what
like
the
this
Jedi
is
are,
what, yeah,
and then it makes sense
for sure.
And that like even the Force, well, like what does the word Force mean? It means like to push. We're using physical exertion
Sure.
to. And like that's a base for the meaning in Star Wars, but obviously it's more than that. And like not, I feel like it's hard to find sci-fi that really has this like all this terminology that really doesn't have any English word or English root translation. I
think it's less about a sci-fi thing and more of just like how to establish a good story within a universe of whatever you're making. I really like it much better the way they do it within the new one. And I completely understand the gripes, and it is kind of tough to follow. I do hope, like you're saying, we go through this and you're like, oh, on the next one you're like, this is this scene, and there are a few ripped directly from each, but yeah. Were you gonna say something?
No, and I was gonna say something, and like sometimes like regurgitating the word, like what's the needle thing called?
Oh, the Gom Jabbar, like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Again,
like,
and that's a book scene for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not even the scene, but like the Gom Jabbar itself, like the word. Like I couldn't regurgitate it to you because I just forgot it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a bunch of mumbo.
Sure.
Like it just doesn't.
Bunch of mumbo.
Gooch, it just doesn't mean.
I don't want to hear this with you liking Death Stranding, okay? With all the mumbo.
Yeah, but like,
stuff and that again, has the
chiral network. It's an English word. Death Stranding. You don't.
Sure.
This is more. It necessarily doesn't have to be about it not making sense. It's the word of what it is that I don't know just from hearing the word.
Sure, but like you see it in the this is the Gom Jabbar. It's a big needle I'm going to stick in your neck.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a scene in context it works.
Yeah.
It's an item.
Sure.
But like trying to like recall that word off the cuff.
Yeah, no, it's going to be tough.
Somebody who's not a Dune book reader, not a Dune fan per se, and being like, what's it called? The Gom Jabbar.
No, I mean it's a completely new sci-fi world that we're unfamiliar with.
I like it. Like, don't get me wrong, but it like understand that it is more difficult to like.
Of course, yeah.
Like even for me, again, I was saying like last night, I'm like I'm not your typical movie goer. I'm like a high echelon of caliber.
Yeah,
of
we're better than all of you when it comes to movie going.
And like so, like I understand like lore and games, but like even this, I'm like this is like eluding me. Like this is tough to.
Sure.
Kind of like to cement the words and the meanings behind everything.
And I will
easily.
say one of the best parts of the first Dune book is there is a dictionary basically in the back of it. A thesaurus, if you will.
A thesaurus.
That, you're like reading through and it's like, all right, yeah, that's when the Butlerian Jihad happened. And you're like, what the fuck is the Butlerian Jihad? And then you go to the back of the book and it's like, oh, this is...
Yeah, you were talking about like the new Catholic Bible. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about?
That's deep stuff that's within the book that you don't like... You wouldn't put that in a movie because you'd have to dedicate like a whole scene to them talking about the history. Like that's something you get to do in a book, which is really great. And you can really establish that type of lore where I think, real estate in a movie is more precious when it comes to world building, and doing it right is tough. It's a hard fucking thing to do.
And I think Lynch's Dune does it better than Villeneuve's Dune.
I completely disagree. I feel like they're just they just fucking...
I'm not saying
they stuffed a spray shot or a scatter shot together and just shot it all over the screen.
I'm not saying it's like the best, but like especially in the beginning.
Like, yeah,
I think that this movie, to get back to Lynch's Dune, the beginning is the better of the movie. And then it's like 7 years have passed in one scene, and I have no idea. And the only reason I know is because Paul's sister is older, and I'm like, wait, time has passed here? Like what?
It
like
feels
what happened?
like relatively slow paced until we get to Arrakis, and then all of a sudden, like shit picks up, and then like.
It picks up, but not like in a slow manner.
It's weird. You're like, oh wait, we're already here. What happened? Yeah,
right,
like goes from.
But we still got 20 minutes left.
I feel like it goes from the end of like the story points of the first Dune that we've seen, the new one, to like the parts that we haven't seen in like 45 minutes, and it's just like, all right, Paul's God, and they really kind of ignore a lot of the bigger questions within the book, and with that they bring up even in the new movie, like with like why he's doing this, and like the Bene Gesserit like kind of planting these prophecies among the Freemen, and like they all only believe this because they've been like socially engineered into believing that Paul is a savior, and like it's completely all ignored. Like it's kind of just turned into this full-on hero story, which that's not the point of Dune.
Yeah,
it's like,
I mean, I don't see it as a hero story. I don't.
Well, like I
mean,
guess
it
they
is.
tried to paint it much more. Yeah, exactly. Like black and white. Like Paul's the good guy, and he's doing this because he is the hero. And like, there's not really any dichotomy in that within this
Right,
movie.
there's no questioning it.
No.
And even characters like Duncan.
I forgot he even existed in this movie. He's got like a line.
Right, he has
Yeah.
2 scenes.
Yeah.
He's literal 2 scenes. Like Jason Momoa plays him in 2021, and other characters. I'm trying to think. Jessica, like you kept saying, like doesn't get a lot of scenes.
She has nothing
doesn't.
in this.
The what's his name? The guy who played Javier Bardem plays.
Oh, Stilgar.
Yeah, Stilgar, like just there. And yeah, like they're moving through characters and things so quickly.
Major moments.
It kind of makes sense that Denis Villeneuve was like, hey, like, okay, we're going to take the Emperor out of the first one. We're going to take...
We're going to really focus in on the Atreides
Austin,
here.
what's his,
Butler's,
Austin
Fade
Butler's
Ruther.
character out too, who Sting plays in Lynch's Dune, which is like comical. And he, even in that movie, doesn't have a lot. He's there
He has
a few
3
times.
lines, I think,
he has
4
a few lines, and then he gets the fight at the end, which is where he shines,
Yeah.
I guess, or when he gets
Sort
his moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then nude scene.
The nude scene, right? That was going to be a nude, but then they were like, get him a G-string of some kind. We need this weird winged G-string.
Yeah, get him this like like futuristic thong.
Yeah, and I will give them that, like, the environments, especially Getty Prime, like with the Harkonnens, like felt very out there and just wild, which I appreciated. It was nice to see some real sets. I mean, they built like 16 or 17 real sets for this movie, which is wild back in the day. But yeah, it's so many characters just get the shaft, and so many of the acting, and I don't know if it's just 1980s acting, but is rough. From especially like Chani and stuff, like her delivery.
Sean Young from Blade Runner.
Sean Young.
Yeah.
It's just like so weird.
And she doesn't get a lot of time either.
She has nothing.
Yeah. And I'm like Sean Young, Blade Runner.
I feel like Gurney, like Sir Pat Stew, Paul Atreides, and his dad get a lot of time to shine, and the Harkonnen, like the Baron, a lot. Which, by the way, I don't know if he's just such a weird, hammy, cackling villain. I was not a fan.
I kind of like it because, so Vladimir Harkonnen.
Harkonnen. That's
Yeah.
technically how. Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't really matter.
Interesting, like very interesting compared to Skarsgård's Baron in 2021. Just like the difference is like him being like this ginormous like pus boy and like being gross and bathing in the oil. But yeah, you're right. Like Lynch really hams it up with him, and like he's almost like a mustache twirling villain.
Exactly.
But I kind of liked it. But like again,
I think it works for this movie.
It worked. Yeah, it does
Yeah.
work for some reason, and I did find him interesting at some points, and then like towards the end where he dies, like I'm like that was very uninteresting.
Anticlimactic. He's just
Yeah.
spinning out of the fucking thing. Well, can we talk about my favorite shot of the film though? The space travel shot? Like when they're all kind of leaving Caladan to venture to Arrakis. They all kind of pile into the big Starliner, and we see the guild we'll talk about the guild navigators, but we see the guild navigators come out and they throw up light into some sort of mechanism that then just teleports them to Arrakis, and it's actually relatively wild and cool, and I was like, this is interesting. It's weird, but I like it. But then it just finishes off just showing like planetside Arrakis, and just the ship slow fades into it.
Like what the fuck
just
was
like,
that? Not like a boom.
No, it's not even like it appears. It's like
it just like faded in.
It sits on the shot for like at least 5 seconds, and then it slowly fades in.
The very boring, like almost like Christmas dessert roll like looking ship just fades in. It's like
not good.
Okay,
I think that's something that works so much better in the new Dune. It really does. But what do you think of the Guild Navigators and seeing them for the first time? We don't see them in the new Dune.
Yeah, I'm curious if we will end up seeing
I
them.
am absolutely confident we will. I think they're holding that back because they know that that's like a big thing. We need to see those Guild Navigators, those ball-sacking men.
Like interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of something out of like Fallout, like
Sure.
some FEV virus, like abomination,
Right.
a centaur, or even the Master from Fallout 1. So I was fine with it. I think like the lore behind it's like, the spice intake of these humans has caused them to like
Mutate, basically,
mutate and like almost evolve but de-evolve in the same way. I think it's cool. It's gross. Looking at its mouth for like extended scenes like 17 times was like a little much. As it has a vagina looking mouth thing, snout.
It's like a weird pig snout that folds in on itself. Terrible. But yeah, I'm super curious to see what those look like in the new one. And I do love all that lore behind it. There's a lot of stuff in this whole universe that's just interesting, I think, because it all stems from humanity. Like, you'll meet new people in the universe, but like humanity's been populating the stars for so long, that they've lived in places for so long, that they've turned and evolved into different types of human beings because they've had to adapt to where they're living.
Yeah.
And we'll see that there's a new group that will show up in Messiah, the Bene Talaxi. They're the face dancers. I won't go much into them, but like that's a really kind of cool concept that they'll start talking about. I love this idea of like that Herbert really leans into. It's like it all comes from the human mind, and that's, I think, the biggest kind of separation for this sci-fi. And
there's no alien.
No.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. To kind of hone in on like, I guess, a realistic concept.
Sure.
Even though it's sci-fi and, you know, fantasy per se, and being, you know, unreal with it, like I keep saying, like being weird is not necessarily like the vibe of Dune.
Well, and it's
even though it is weird.
It is, but it's like it's so squarely set within our like our universe, in the way of like it's so far ahead, but it's really being like, no, this is the idea of where we could go in 20,000 years, you know, with all these expectations. But yeah, Gooch, anything else on Lynch's Dune? I feel like we kind of covered a lot. The ending was just kind of anticlimactic. Again, we get there, the Emperor sits down in his VR chair and tries to defeat them. That doesn't work. The whole ending battle is just like, what are we doing?
The last, I think, like 45 minutes to an hour kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
And I didn't dislike this movie.
I didn't either. I definitely
I'm like, you know, I like at one point I was like, yeah, I kind of like this. This is like interesting. Like the acting is fine. Like, you know, I think Kyle MacLachlan does a pretty okay job.
Sure.
There is some like, you know, typical like 2022 video game protagonist monologuing to themselves about things
all the
that
inner
like
monologues
doesn't necessarily need to be there. Like I'm like this is just awkward. Like he just monologue to himself like all the time. I just think the issue is the time of day the movie was made is really the problems with it. And how the end is just super sped up, and I don't really think that helps contextualize anything that you're watching. But I think this was a cool little, I guess call it like, you know, one-off rewind review. I enjoyed watching the movie. It was I think it's gonna help me with part 2 and, you know, the rewatch of part 1. So from that perspective, I am grateful.
Awesome.
Because at first I was like, yeah, I've heard a lot of things about Lynch's Dune, like especially like knowing that like, you know, Sting is in it in that one shot, and like Kyle MacLachlan, like I've seen like, you know, like screen grabs, but like nobody's ever called that Dune good before.
Definitely a cult classic, but
yeah, and like you said, it didn't really make anything worth a shit.
No, I mean, they were trying to do this was supposed to be a trilogy, and they it didn't
really
work.
They canned it.
Yeah.
So they were going to do Messiah, and what's the third book?
Children of Dune, I believe, which I think gets, from what I understand, gets really out there and like seems almost unfilmable, to be honest.
What do you mean?
In the way of like how it's like the story it follows and like the ideas it kind of broaches, it's just like I think it would just be so all over. It's not like a single kind of through line story. I think they start turning into like what's the word?
Less about Paul, more about other things.
Well, it's about his children and like the lineage and all that. But no, what's the word? Like when there's separate stories, but within like the same
side stories.
Yeah, kind of like anthologies, almost about like this. It's breaking up. I don't know exactly for sure. I might be completely incorrect on that. That's I think what I understand. But yeah.
Toto did the
script.
Toto did the music.
Thank you for bringing that up.
That's not really like a fun fact. It's literally stated in the opening credits. Strange. The music was strange.
It was very strange.
Like especially now that we have Hans Zimmer score and
a lot of guitar and like solo riffing and stuff.
Like I'm just like what like this music doesn't match this at all.
It's funny because I totally had forgotten. Like we saw it when it came up on the credits at the beginning, but I had completely forgotten about it until we got into the battle scenes, because it was like I was noticing it, but not for a good reason. You know what I mean? I was like,
The music?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
barely
I totally had
noticeable.
forgot. Like, I was like, oh yeah, Toto did this.
Movies back in those days, I'll say 80s back.
I agree. Yeah.
Don't use music very effectively.
Well, it's tough. They
score, I should say.
Well, and I think they did try to connect it more, like you were saying, with like the Prince and Batman thing.
Right. It's like there's like movies back then. They got big celebrity singers, bands, groups to do music for their movie, and it's like to get the music video to advertise. Like
absolutely.
it really was like that's not like a thing anymore.
Yeah.
I think the last time I could think of that is Tron Legacy with Daft Punk.
No, for
but
sure.
that
it worked so well.
So well.
It was a perfect alignment.
Or even like. Well, like I was thinking, like Phil Collins with like Tarzan, but that's another example. It's like
That just works
why bring Phil
No, it's true.
Collins to do all the music? Well, it's Phil Collins from Genesis. Everyone knows who that is. So and the music for Tarzan is like strangely
Then he gave
good.
us "You'll Be in My Heart" and "You Will Always Be in My Heart." Phil
Right,
Collins.
like why is all that music?
It's amazing.
It's good.
It's
It's
fantastic.
really good.
I listen to it all the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like another like
There's for sure
example
more
like that.
But I mean, Linkin Park did it back for Transformers. That's I feel like a later.
Yeah,
example.
no, it's a great example because they didn't do the rest of the music. They just did.
They just did the songs.
Divide.
Yeah,
yeah.
New Divide. Wow, I need to download that on my. That's a great. I forget.
Did they make that song before? It was that.
I think it was for the movie.
Yeah, but that is a good example because
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a modern day example of that happening.
Yeah,
and I guess you get like like Billie Eilish doing songs for Barbie,
and then there's like they do
but
the
like
Bond songs, but that's already kind of set in
yeah,
stone.
it's a little different. But like Barbie, like Lizzo, like a lot
Dua
of
Lipa,
artists came in for that. I mean, again, but again, Billie Eilish is doing the score for Barbie.
Black Panther had Kendrick Lamar. I know that was kind of big for people.
Another great example because he did
it's
a whole album.
I think it does kind of happen more naturally now. I think is what
It's
we're
not
kind of
as
figuring.
not as like inserted.
It's not Prince and Batman, which
Here's
is so
Toto
funny.
doing the music for Dune. And it's
Yeah.
like what?
Just doing crazy guitar riffs. But yeah, Gooch, I can only kind of really echo what you're saying here. Like it's a fun, wild ride. I think Lynch did take a swing at it, and for the time, I think they did what they could do. And I would like to see kind of Lynch's kind of unfettered look at what this movie could have been back in the day.
I'm curious what he
about,
thinks of the new stuff.
Yeah, I'd be curious. To hear.
Because he again, like he's the only other. I don't know if Dune has been adapted, but like elsewhere in any sort of regard. Like, I mean, we haven't had a Dune game. I know there's like the Spice Wars game, but it's like like a mobile.
I would love to see a
type
true
of
like
game.
AAA.
Like what does a
game.
Dune game look like? Like I think David Lynch is really the only one to like get his hands on this IP outside of the original.
So there was
novels.
a sci-fi show in 2002, and they did Dune and Children of Dune, and what's his name was actually in it. Professor X, young Professor X.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
James McAvoy.
Yeah, and apparently it's kind of okay for like a TV adaptation.
How long to run?
I think they did it was like 10 episodes for each like series. I
Okay.
might be wrong.
20 episodes is.
Because they did Dune and then I think Dune Messiah. And then I think there's even they might have actually done 3 seasons because I think I saw Children of Dune. But yeah, not a lot of attempts at this because, dude, it's a dense book. There's a lot going on and a lot of themes to cover and a lot of lore.
I will admit, though, the cast is pretty stacked.
Oh, for sure, especially for the time.
Like Max von Sydow was really cool to see. Patrick Stewart, Kyle MacLachlan. I know you said it was his first film.
Yeah.
Sean Young. That one little old woman who appears in a lot of stuff is in it. I did like at the end showing all the characters and it was something like it's corny,
It's so 80s.
but I like kind of liked it. Like,
it was the weird, just the fades in and out of each people, and they're all
in
they're all
alphabetical
kind of
order.
Yeah,
like
that is so funny.
Like, is that of any consequence?
Yeah, but hey, to finish us off on the review portion here, I'd say watch this if you're bored one day and you have any affinity.
I think if you're gonna go watch part 2 and you've seen part 1, watch it because I think it will help you give context to Dune.
And it will slightly spoil things for you, to be honest. But at the same time, Denny is approaching this from such a different avenue that I think seeing it in a different way would be very interesting and helpful.
It is very different. And I kept saying who's Léa Seydoux' character, and you're like, oh, she's
not in this, or she's not in the first one, I should say.
But wait, didn't you say she was a new character?
I think she, within the new one. I don't know if she's in the books at all. I don't know what her character
that's
is
what I'm
supposed to
saying.
be.
But it's like, okay, cool. Like, how is he gonna he's inserting a new character and we were talking about yesterday. Some people are gender and race swapped.
Yeah.
like the mentats we were talking about.
Yeah, well, and like
being like like totally different looking and like in
yeah, so all those bushy eyebrows and stuff were design choice by him. The only thing that really is in the book is the staining of the lips and stuff.
Yeah, but even like that and the Harkonnens, whatever Harkonnens, whatever we're gonna call them. Between the two are vastly different, but they do share kind of like similarities. Like the white skin is interesting.
Well, I feel like he just took a different approach to disgusting. Like they're like clean disgusting in the new one. They're all hairless and like taking weird baths all the time and experimenting on people. Whereas in like the old one, they're grimy, disgusting. Like
right.
they're like
like,
just all boils everywhere and the heart plugs and weird shit.
Yeah, you see people like kind of maimed and disfigured and I'm like, this is pretty gross. Yeah, like when the Batista character in Lynch, whatever his name is, and he's eating like that cow tongue.
That's a real cow tongue. Fun fact: he ate a cow tongue for that scene.
Oh,
that's a real awful.
Well, speaking of fun facts.
Anyways, yeah, let's move on to the fun facts of this. Anyway, but final, just go watch this.
Not
I think not
really
very fun. Not a fun fact to start us. But go watch David Lynch's Dune. I think it's an insane time capsule of what people were trying to do with sci-fi back then after Star Wars. So it's really interesting. All right, here we go. David Lynch has talked about in recent interviews that he considers this film to be a disappointment. He regrets not getting the final cut over the film and felt like he quote unquote sold out and found it to be a terrible experience overall. And in the interview he was just talking like
it is different for Lynch, and I even know I'm not a Lynch fan by any means, but I know what kind of things he does. Twin Peaks being like one of the biggest ones,
sure.
And it's just like this seems like a pretty like kind of like even like James Wan with like Aquaman,
yeah,
like a bit different.
I don't think that's really why he was having issues with it. It was just more that he didn't have final say. Sure. Like he didn't have the actual kind of final go ahead on everything and didn't feel like he truly got to make what he wanted to make. So studio interference was even happening back then, Gooch. The first
and it was Warner Brothers, right?
No, that was Universal.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so the first rough cut without any effects on this for this film was at 4 hours, so a little bit over.
Oh my god!
The producers at Universal or the producers and Universal of the day wanted a standard length, though, quote unquote, and around 2.5 hours. So that's how we got down to the 2 hours and 14 minutes. And I was just looking online; they apparently cut so many scenes. Patrick Stewart was saying how like at least everyone got at least 2 scenes cut per person, and you feel it. I mean, there are parts where it's just jump. End. Yeah, especially with the ending parts. It's just tough. So the total number of production crew for this film came to 1,700 people. The movie required 80 sets built on 16 sound stages, more than 6 years in the making. It required writer-director David Lynch's work for 3.5 years. The $45 million budget would be equal to $122 million today.
Still not bad.
I mean, not in wild. No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, we're dealing with a practical budget, not a visual effects budget.
Well, but I mean, the idea is that would actually be. I mean, the idea is that should be cheaper when they use more CGI, but they start redoing scenes so much now that just doesn't work out. So it's so fucking stupid. Yeah. So here we'll get to the weirding module. It was written into the film to replace the Bene Gesserit martial art referred to by the Freemen as the weirding way. Writer and director David Lynch decided to use the modules, and he found the idea of the weirding way unworkable in film, stating that he did not want to see, quote, kung fu on the dunes, unquote.
I don't want to see kung fu on the dunes.
Listen, guys, don't give me. We're gonna do kung fu on dunes. What are we doing here? No, I just think like this is such an 80s mindset of like kung fu movies. Those were only big still over in like Japan and China, like where they were really doing like, what John Wick kind of brought back over to here in modern days. They didn't know how to do kung fu. They didn't know how to really do hand-to-hand fighting.
Yeah, I think that would have added like another layer to the
Again,
production.
It eliminates an entire like sector of lore within the movie. Like it's so
now
weird.
You have to teach your actors how to choreograph all
this fight.
Yeah.
And again, because this really is like Game of Thrones in space. No one uses guns. We said this. No one uses these kind of they have laser weapons, but you don't want to use those really often because if you hit a shield with a laser gun, it produces an explosion equal to a nuclear bomb. So, and you see those happen a few times within the new movie. But
oh, really?
Yeah. Fade Rutha was originally supposed to
part one.
Yeah, It's like when they'll shoot. It's like when Duncan is like flying away from the battle, you see some lasers getting shot and like some big like explosions happening.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it leaves like fallout like a nuclear weapon. Obviously, it's just an insane explosion. So Fade Rutha, who Sting played, was originally meant to step out of the steam bath nude. Sting had agreed to film the scene, but the studio panicked and told costume designers they had to put something on him. The skimpy winged G-string he wore was made at the almost very last minute for the scene. So fun stuff. A little bit of G-string. Fun fact.
Like what would that have done? Like having him.
Well,
naked.
I know you're not showing a dick on a movie back then.
Well, they apparently would have.
I guess, but that's what I'm saying. They got like, I'm surprised they even kind of thought at the beginning, like maybe we'll do this, but it's weird. The suits worn by the Spacer Guild members were body bags that were found in a disused fire station back in the early 1920s. The bags had actually been used several times, and it was something that was kept from the cast members until after completing the shoot. So good stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
200 workers spent 200 workers spent 2 months hand cleaning 3 square miles of Mexican desert for on-location shooting. That sounds
Cleaning
like a nightmare. Yeah, I guess getting debris out of the way, like making it look like an untouched world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, it kind of sounds like it was a terrible time. During the movie's original release, cheat sheets explaining many of the movie's settings and its lore were handed out to moviegoers at certain theaters. So people literally needed cheat sheets in this movie.
Right,
apparently.
for the terms.
Yeah.
So they're bitching exactly what I'm bitching about.
Well, no, they weren't bitch. That was actually just the studio being like, they can't handle it. Make sure there's cheat sheets if people need them and stuff like that.
So weird.
Yeah.
Imagine we worked at a movie theater, hanging out 3D glasses with your
Going to see Batman Begins. Here's Batman's lore. Yeah.
Here's the dictionary. Their little like
thesaurus.
laminated pamphlet.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. So I wonder how much that'd be worth.
Yeah.
If you
Probably
had
a
that.
lot. Probably a lot.
Yeah.
This really wasn't a fun fact, but I think it kind of like speaks to what these books are about. But when Frank Herbert was interviewed about the novel by NBC in 1982, he stated that the message of the novel is don't trust leaders to always be right. And that just doesn't come through
That doesn't make
whatsoever in
sense.
this movie. Like I think in the book, like it's I don't know, like it's
That would imply
It's
that
all
something
saying-
bad happened.
well, because the original idea of the book is that Paul isn't really great. He's doing this because it's like it was thrust upon him, and it was socially engineered that way. He doesn't see himself.
What do you
as a
mean
hero.
socially engineered?
The Bene Gesserit have set up these lines. Like they have basically been orchestrating the bloodlines of the universe. They haven't explained this yet in the movies to create these very powerful individuals
To do what?
to become this Kwisatz Haderach, become the Messiah, to create and lead the known universe and become the next emperor, because he'd be all-knowing. Basically, they'd create this godlike figure.
So is the current emperor not that?
No, they've been the Bene Gesserit have been trying to create this person through manipulating bloodlines, and that's the whole thing with Jessica. She wasn't supposed to have a boy. She was supposed to have another girl, and then that girl's daughter or son was supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach, or whatever, the Messiah, if you will.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So does Paul have sisters?
And he has a sister by the end of the movie, but no. So the idea that she was talking about, she was only supposed to bear. The Bene Gesserit can choose what gender they want to produce, or sex. So she was instructed by the mistresses to not have a daughter with Duke Leto. She went against their will because she loved Leto, and he wanted a son. So she gave him a son. She wasn't supposed to do that because her daughter, the daughter she was supposed to have, was supposed to then give birth to what Paul is, like the Messiah. But they want the Messiah to be under their control. Like Paul isn't under their hand. That's the problem.
Right.
Anything? Nothing?
No, it makes sense.
It
It makes 100% sense. What's that term again? The
Kwisatz Haderach.
That's the word that they used. The Bene Gesserit says to somebody and then says
Muad'Dib.
Messiah. So Muad'Dib and Kwisatz Haderach is the same thing?
So he is Paul Muad'Dib, which is I think like his Freeman name.
Sure.
And then
He's Atreides.
Yeah, and then
That's not hope.
Kwisatz Haderach is like his title. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
So it's like Jesus Christ is, like Jesus is his name. Christ is kind of like the.
I guess so.
But then,
yeah.
like, he is also God. But God and Jesus Christ are also the same. It's
right.
Like,
He's part of God.
right.
But like again, God like But he is just like he's just this genetically engineered phenomenon. Really, it's all bullshit made up by the Bene Gesserit.
The way we were talking yesterday, it sounded like Jessica had already given birth to girls and had a few girls, but was only supposed to have girls.
No, so they were just saying you were only supposed to bear girls.
So Jessica is kind of like this sort of like heretic Bene Gesserit in a way.
She's following her heart more than the actual Bene Gesserit way. Yeah, she's not an outlier, but like she's more committed to Leto than the. Sure, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that would be a way to put it. But speaking of the Kwisatz Haderach, that translates from Hebrew. Jesus Christ. The expression Kwisatz Haderach, said by Alina many times in this movie, literally means in Hebrew, quote, jumping the path. This term is mentioned in the Talmud and Jewish folklore legends, referring to miraculously traveling between two distant places in a brief time.
So, I mean,
the idea is he is omnipotent. It means jumping the path. So literally. But
so when you said that, I was like, oh, so they're like jumping forward, like, you know, like they're kind of like skipping, like the Bene Gesserit are doing this and like kind of like not like skipping around, but like, you know, like orchestrating, like
they're trying to
they're going they're like jumping ahead, being like unnatural, like they're jumping ahead of the path to. That's
no, I think that's a direct translation. I think so. Sense? But like I think it's really like where it's in the where it's saying referring to miraculously traveling between two distant places in a brief time. The whole point of the Kwisatz Haderach is he is omnipotent and can see the future and can be almost like everywhere at once. So he is like he's on every path. He can miraculously change from one path to the other. And you know, again, they bring that up much more in the new movies. They don't really even talk about his like omnipotence in the Lynch one and like his visions and his possible futures.
And his voice is just something he has because of that bloodline.
Yeah, they don't. So in the new movie, Jessica's been training him in the Bene Gesserit ways, and I think that's how it's supposed to be. And that's the other thing they get mad at her for in the new ones, because it's like you're not supposed to do that. Men can't usually survive these trials. That's why they were trying to. But for some reason, when they create these men, they're more powerful when they are able to survive like the Bene Gesserit trials, and that's why they're trying to create like the Kwisatz Haderach is basically the most powerful, and he'd be a male Bene Gesserit who can see into the future, manipulate people with the voice, all that stuff. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. And I think that wraps us up for today, Gooch. But to finish us off,
of course,
we will have to get our patented Luke Kenny rating system to end us off here. Patented by Luke, of course. We don't patent it. But Gooch, what was your rating? Let's hear it.
Mid-tier film. Or sorry, mid-tier movie.
Mid-tier movie? Okay.
Yeah, mid-tier movie. Easy.
Yeah.
I think it has some quality to it and production, which kind of makes it a movie, but not quite high tier, not quite a total piece of shit. So I think right in the middle of the road, mid-tier movie is where to go.
I think I'm right around here. I think I might actually go a little higher. High-tier movie, just in the way of how big of swings this movie takes, all the things it's trying to cover in one, what it manages to convey, and, you know, just the whole undertaking of building these sets and just trying to put this movie to the screen. I think, you know, they did as great of a job as you could do in 1984. But I don't know. Maybe it could have been even better back then. But Gooch, I think that does it for us today.
I'm looking forward to our part 1 rewatch. I'm looking forward to watching part 2 on the last day of February.
Yeah, it's Dune. No, well, the last one or the new one comes out the 1st of March. So
yeah,
but I guess it'll be Thursday. But we're going Saturday. Did I not tell you that? Because everyone can do Saturday more better.
No.
Okay, I thought I mentioned it in the group chat. But yeah, so we're going. That's Saturday now. That's 7:30.
Oh, okay, cool. So I did get what I wanted.
You did. You're welcome.
Yeah, because when we were planning this, I'm like, I only like seeing Marvel movies on Thursdays. Everything else I can see a weekend of, like Star Wars. Like I don't need to be in there Thursday night, or anything else for that matter. So I was like, yeah, like I'll see it during the weekend. Like if we can do that, okay. So we're seeing 7:30
IMAX Saturday KOP.
Yeah.
Don't show up there.
March 2nd. You're not invited.
Yeah.
Oh, well, God. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, you can. Yeah, exactly.
You can't call it.
Yeah, no. It's good stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah,
it's Dune-tastic, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah, you're coordinating 3 Dune-centric events in like 1 month. We had the 84, last night as of recording this, so this will come out a little bit later. Actually, probably in like a month, literally.
Yeah.
So we watched January 27th. We're recording January 28th, and this will come out
the week before
on
that Thursday.
Monday.
Or Monday, whatever. I thought we just do Tuesdays and Thursdays for these. That's why.
Well, since I wanted to give it a little buffer.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that was the idea. So this will come out Monday, the 26th. So we are recording this like a literal month in advance, just because we had time.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're on live with us, you got a special sneak peek.
Yeah. So this won't air for a while. But yeah, and then the part 1 watch party, and then you've been buying a lot of movie tickets lately. I need to, after Madam Web, I'm not fucking doing that. Madam Web, you're all over that.
Your credit card will not touch those tickets.
Yeah, I will step forward and do some rounds of some movies. We've had a lot of now we're getting off topic a little bit, but it's fine. We haven't gone that long. We've had a lot of smaller movies lately. Like I think Dune is probably going to be the biggest movie we've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's
because we've had a ton of like C-list comic book movies, between like Blue Beetle, the Marvels. Like I just feel like we haven't been like to I think maybe like the last like packed theater we're probably at was like Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I know we didn't see Barbie and Oppenheimer together.
Yeah.
But for just like I guess the movies we see together.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But looking forward to it.
I am too.
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird indeed. Weird.
Thanks for getting weird with us
absolutely.
at twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network, where you can watch most of our podcasts live. Go follow us over there. Because that's where you'll get notified. You can find us everywhere podcasts are found. youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your podcasting app. Just search Delco Nerd Network and you should find us there. You can follow us on our Facebook.com/Delco Nerd Network, as well as Delco Nerds at Twitter, or at Delco Nerds on, I got totally mixed up there, on Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Instagram.
Basically everything besides Facebook.
Where the ats are at Delco Nerds.
Mm-hmm.
And you can join us on Discord, where we'll probably be most likely talking about Dune and other things that are going on in the nerd space. You can find all this information at DelcoNerdNetwork.com. You can email us also at DelcoNerds@gmail.com. Thoughts, questions, concerns, things for the good of the group. Send them there. We'd be happy to read what you have to say. For Trio, I've been Gooch. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy. And we'll see you next time.